This isn't just a road trip to Lake Tahoe, it's a reunion on wheels. We planned this Tahoe run around our anniversary, April 26th, 17 years strong from 2008 to 2025, and kicked it off with a Cheyenne meetup with my big sister and brother-in-law. We celebrated with dinner at the Bunkhouse Bar and Grill, then rolled out as a mini RV caravan down the loneliest road in America, all for one destination, Zephyr Cove, Nevada, where we're reconnecting with our cousin Tim and meeting his wife Susan for the very first time. Before we could really settle into the drive, we had to make a quick stop at the Alliance RV mothership to pick up a trim piece that broke on our rig, a 2021 Alliance Paradigm 310RL. And Grizzly definitely stole the show at the parts area. He scored a brand new bandana, plus plenty of pats and treats from the wonderful ladies that helped us out. Then it was on to our first overnight stop, Passport America stay at Beyonder Getaway at Sleepy Hollow, located near Oxford, Iowa. They've got full hookup RV sites with 30 and 50 amp plus cabins, tent sites, and even seasonal spots. And the amenities are legit: a pool, fishing pond, playground, and family-friendly activities. It's also a great home base for exploring eastern Iowa, like the Amana Colonies and the University of Iowa. Now, with our 34'11" 2021 Alliance Paradigm 310RL, it was tough maneuvering the roads and getting into a site, but they were incredibly accommodating, and we tried a few different sites until we found one that worked. And honestly, the big Passport America discount made it worth it. Here's a QR code to check out, and the link is in the description below. After Iowa, we pointed the nose west and made our way to North Platte, Nebraska for a Harvest Host stay at the Golden Spike Tower. If you haven't heard of Harvest Host, it's basically a membership that lets self-contained RVers stay overnight at thousands of unique places: farms, wineries, breweries, and attractions, usually with no camping fee, and the idea is that you support the host while you're there. And this stop was a really cool one, because the Golden Spike Tower overlooks Bailey Yard, which is known as the world's largest railroad classification yard. From the tower's observation decks, including an enclosed 360-degree view up on the 8th floor, you can literally watch trains being built in real time. Bailey Yard is massive, about 2,850 acres and roughly 8 miles long, and it handles over 10,000 rail cars a day. That's wild to see from above. And the name, Golden Spike, is perfect here because North Platte is basically where east meets west on Union Pacific's line, and a nod to the original Golden Spike moment back in 1869 when the first transcontinental railroad was completed at Promontory Summit, Utah. If Harvest Host sounds like something you'd use on your trips, scan the QR code on the screen to check it out. We'll also have a link in the description. We rolled into Cheyenne next for another Passport America stay, this time at the Terry Bison Ranch, sitting right on the Wyoming-Colorado state line. For us, this was the perfect place to celebrate because this was our anniversary dinner stop. We sat down at the Bunkhouse Bar and Grill, took our time, and just soaked in that we're really out here doing this feeling before getting back on the road. Passing through Utah, we made our way to Coleville and pulled into Holiday Hills RV Park, and that's where disaster hit. And honestly, this wasn't even the first issue on this trip. Earlier that day, we had a death scare that would have capped our speed at 5 miles an hour if we didn't get it serviced. That's not a warning you ignore. But Uinta Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram in Evanston, Wyoming really stepped up, got us in, diagnosed it, and helped us out. From what we were told, if you fill DEF at the pump with the engine running and the systems on, the DEF can aerate and trigger a false concentration reading, which then throws that error. RV travel lesson learned. And seriously, when are they going to be able to take some of these systems off legally? But back to Coleville. Debbie noticed something right away. Our wheels looked off, like they were sitting way too close together. I was in the middle of my pre-travel hitch check, so I stopped and took a closer look, and bam, we had a broken leaf spring. So we did what you do in RV life. We made a quick call and sent an email to Alliance Service, and pretty fast we got pointed to Revival Trailer Repair out of Salt Lake City. They jumped on it, got us fixed up, and just like that, after about a 3-hour delay, we were back on the road. Our goal that day was to make the Bonneville Salt Flats for lunch. So we pushed on and finally got there for a late lunch. From there, it was one more stretch to our overnight stop, Ely KOA Journey, the beginning of Route 50, the loneliest highway in America. And thankfully, the rest of the drive was smooth.
We left Ely, Nevada, and pointed the rig west on Nevada 50, the stretch that's famously nicknamed the loneliest road in America. The name goes back to the Life magazine article in July 1986, and Nevada basically leaned into it after that. Going into it, we honestly thought it might feel more like a Route 66 kind of experience. Lots of quirky roadside stops, constant little towns, and that classic every few miles there's something vibe. But no, it is really lonely. We rolled into Carson City, Nevada, then headed south to climb into the Sierra Nevada on Kingsbury Grade. This is the kind of road where you feel every turn because you're gaining elevation fast. Near the top, we crossed Daggett Pass, sitting right around 7,344 feet above sea level. And once we dropped down toward Lake Tahoe side, it finally started to feel real. We made it. We pulled into Zephyr Cove RV Park and Campground, got the rig set up, then hit the road for the one stop that we had to make on this trip. Emerald Bay was the stop. We didn't have time to do the full loop around Lake Tahoe this trip, but we knew we had to come here. And if you've never seen it in person, pictures don't really prepare you for it. And out in the water is Fayette Island, the only island in Emerald Bay. Up on top, you can spot the ruins of a small stone building known as the Tea House, built around the same time as the Vikingsholm in 1928 to 1929, where Mrs. Knight and her guests would occasionally be served tea. Then we wrapped it up at Eagle Falls Overlook for some absolutely stunning views. That classic Tahoe blue water, the granite, and that we made it feeling.
In the morning, we all met at the Zephyr Cove Lodge for a hearty breakfast before we started our day. This was the first time I had seen my cousin Tim in probably about 60 years, so it was a little bit exciting. We rolled over to the Tallac Historic Site and took a slower paced morning, just walking, soaking it in, and ending with a nice beach walk along Lake Tahoe. This place is basically a snapshot of Tahoe's old resort era. 100 years ago, this shoreline was part of what people called the Tallac Resort, and today you can still explore the restored historic estates and grounds that are left behind. The site includes multiple historic properties built between the 1890s and the 1920s, and it was once the summer retreat for some of the Bay Area's wealthiest families. Later on, the U.S. Forest Service acquired the properties to preserve them and expand public access. And now it's one of the coolest, easiest walks in South Lake Tahoe if you like history with your lake views. And the name Tallac isn't random either. Look up behind the lake and you'll see Mount Tallac watching over the whole area. The peak was shown on earlier maps as Crystal Peak, but later it became known as Tallac, a name tied to the Washoe language and often interpreted as meaning a big or great mountain. Pretty fitting. After our Tallac day, we headed back to camp because we had something special waiting for us. Tim and Susan had been up until the wee hours of the morning making homemade pierogies from my grandma's recipe for our family reunion meal. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that's love you can taste. If you've never had pierogies made from scratch, it's a whole process. Mixing the dough, rolling it out, filling them, sealing every single one, and then cooking them up until they're tender and perfect. And the second those hit the table, it didn't feel like a campground anymore. It felt like family. We absolutely stuffed ourselves. Like, we're not moving for a while stuffed. But once we recovered, we looked around and realized the rock formations at camp were basically begging for a photo shoot. So we grabbed the camera, took advantage of the light, and turned that little corner of campground into our own mini backdrop. Family Reunion Memories, Tahoe Edition.
Our next day trip was a quick run over to Virginia City, that classic Old West Main Street vibe where you feel like you're walking into a movie set. And the weather up there was doing its own thing. It felt like it changed every 15 minutes. Sunny, then cloudy, then overcast, and back again. We grabbed lunch at the Red Dog Saloon, and this place had some real music history behind it. Janis Joplin even made an appearance here in 1968, back when Big Brother and the Holding Company were the house act. After lunch, we headed back to the dock at camp because we had reservations we were really looking forward to. The MS Dixie II. The MS Dixie II is the iconic 3-deck paddle wheeler that departs from Zephyr Cove. It was launched in 1994. It's about 151 feet long and it carries 500 passengers. So when you see it pull in, it feels like an event. And honestly, the cruise itself was fantastic. The crew was great, the dinner was fun, the whole experience felt very special. But we're gonna be real. The weather didn't cooperate at all. The views were pretty rough, low clouds, gray skies, and Emerald Bay just didn't have that Tahoe wow that we were hoping for. Still, it was 100% worth doing. Down on the shoreline, it's Vikingsholm, a Scandinavian-style mansion built in 1929 as a summer home of Laura Josephine Knight. It's considered one of the finest examples of Scandinavian architecture in the Western Hemisphere, sitting here like a hidden castle right on the edge of the bay.
This was our last day at Tahoe, so we decided to squeeze in a quick hike at Spooner Lake Summit to check out a stretch of the Tahoe Rim Trail. It started out calm, an easy walk out to the lake, fresh mountain air, and a quiet Tahoe forest vibe. But then we hit the weather, and it hit us right back. We found snow still hanging around, and within minutes, it went from "this is pretty" to rain and sleet coming down on us. Real quick reminder that up here conditions can change fast. So we took it as our cue, turned around, headed back to camp, and called it a day. Our first stop on the way back home from Tahoe was Beatty, Nevada, and from there, we made a quick detour to Rhyolite. Rhyolite was one of those blink and it's gone boom towns. It kicked off after a gold discovery in 1904, grew fast, and then faded just as quickly when the mining reality set in. But what makes this stop unforgettable isn't just the ghost town feeling, it's what you see out here in the desert. Right next to Rhyolite is the Goldwell Open Air Museum, and that's where the ghosts are. These life-size plaster figures called The Last Supper, created in 1984 by artist Albert Zuzlowski, check my pronunciation on that. They're posed like the famous painting, but out here in the open desert, they look like they're haunting the landscape. And if that doesn't give you chills, the next part might. Not far away is the Bullfrog Rhyolite Cemetery, quiet, weathered, and filled with graves from the boom days. A lot of the markers are simple, some are unmarked, and many are just a wooden cross or a rough marker that's been baked by the desert for more than a century. One grave in particular stands out, Mona Bell's, marked by a painted cross, and it's become one of those places people stop at because it feels, honestly, a little unsettling in the best ghost town way. It's one of those stops that's hard to explain until you're standing there. Desert, quiet, ghostly art, and a cemetery that reminds you how fast a whole town can appear and disappear.
Death Valley is known for extreme records. Hottest, driest, lowest in the U.S., holding the world's highest recorded air temperature at 134 Fahrenheit. And the North America's lowest point, Badwater Basin, 282 feet below sea level. Despite its name, it's the largest U.S. national park outside of Alaska, featuring singing sand dunes, mysteriously moving rocks at Racetrack Playa, vibrant wildflowers in spring, and excellent stargazing. Plus, it's surprisingly close to Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the lower 48 states.